waffle. I don't typically eat like breakfast stuff, but it was like interesting waffle place.
Nice. Where you
Love
at?
it. Where are you actually?
Oklahoma City.
Oh,
Oh,
well, everyone, welcome to the show, Signals and Symptoms podcast with my two besties and co-hosts, Ed and Harvey. We have an amazing, exciting guest today. We are super excited to see for him to come to our. Oh my God, what did I do? Uh, and I am really, really looking forward to talk to him for some time. This is Dr. Walsh, and he is at Memorial Hermann Health System. I mean, if I go into his CV, it's going to take me an hour by itself. He's just super impressive. But he is officially the CMIO and, of course, a physician, then an informist. And then, most importantly, I love this line that he says, double board certified, and he's human plus machine. And I love that tagline because that's what Harvey keeps saying about it. And if you look through his resume, one of the things that pointed out to me is also that he was a residency director of family. Yeah, here you go, associate director of residency in family medicine. So this is really the culmination of things that we have been talking about for some time, how technology, education, behavioral change, and AI is going to go ahead and onslaught it. So as usual, I apologize for the bad introduction. I'm going to ask um, our third bestie is here, Dr. Mannering. She is over here as well. So we actually have the full quorum right now. She is officially now a co-host, so we're going to be adding her on the roster on a regular basis. I just did a brief introduction of Dr. Walsh. Dr. Walsh, how tell us your journey, and before I'm actually going to ask Harvey's question, what drives you? Why? As a CMIO and through the whole journey, and then tell us about yourself. More importantly, what excites you in health tech and hopefully more specifically in AI.
Oh man, that was a lot of questions. You know that, right? You're probably gonna have to prompt me along a little bit later. But no, thanks for such a nice introduction. I hope you didn't set the bar too high starting right out. But no, it's funny. Folks that know me and get to talk to me a lot know that I tell them my career is what I call the Forrest Gump of health IT, in that a series of lucky coincidences has really sparked a lot of where I've gotten in my career. And the way I mean that is I actually got started my intern year of residency. So 2002. And yes, I did just say that. I was at a hospital that actually was starting EHRs before the HITECH Act, which I think actually is pretty rare, really. And so in my hospital system, when the system wanted to do something, where do you come and do it? Well, you do it where you got a captive audience, right? And residents are a captive audience. They will do what you tell them, or at least they would back then. And so they said, hey, we're going to put this EMR in the residency. Great. And they actually did a nice thing. And they said, we're going to ask the residents what they think. We're going to put them, in the governance and the setup, et cetera. So they came in and they said, does anyone know about computers? And I literally raised my hand and I said, well, I built one and I break it all the time and I spend a lot of time fixing it. Does that count? And that was like the highest level of knowledge anyone had. And voila, 25 almost years later now, here I am. But I was really lucky that I had some incredible sponsors and mentors, Dave Trachtenberg at my residency, and then our first CMIO, Keith Knepp, just kept helping me advance and, paid for me to go get an MMM and all of those sorts of things. And so, really lucked into it, but kept on with it as well. So it's always been part of my practice. And I think to me, it goes a lot with teaching. So as we started to adopt the technology, we had to teach how to use the technology. We also, as an informaticist, a big part of our job isn't just technology, but it's really figuring out how to, figure out the quality of information, how we get information to people in the right place, right time, right context, all those sorts of things. And that leads me a little bit to what drives me, or what has kept driving me, which is, as you see colleagues working on things that are just incredible clinicians, and they come to you and they say, man, this is either literally getting in my way. How many meme videos do we see about, Epic or, the EMR du jour getting in the way? I literally just had my screen go blank. Can you guys still see me?
Yeah, you're coming out.
Yeah, like one of my monitors literally just shut itself off, and it's the one that I'm actually staring at. So that was very jarring. I'm wondering if I can actually get that to come back.
Yeah, you're still good to us. We can see you.
Well, I can't see a doggone thing. Well, any which way. So that's neither here nor there. We're gonna keep going like that never happened.
It's the AI God.
Love it.
Something
Actually,
you said.
real quick, I'm gonna give you the extreme close up, and I'm gonna try unplugging that monitor and see if that brings everything over to my other screen. And it seems like it might have that. Hey, all right.
Yeah, physician self-diagnoses himself the situation and has the fix. We're good.
Yeah, but where I was going with that though is, obviously most of us that got into medicine because we like helping people. And I found that IT and informatics was a way that I could scale that to some extent. But still practicing is a way that I can have those individual relationships that matter so much too. So I get the best of both worlds, the whole have your cake and eat it too. So sorry for the long story, but that's my story. Forrest Gump of healthcare IT.
So true. I mean, if you look at many stories who are innovation is essentially an accident, and Ed's story is fascinating in that regard as well. So is mine. And what I realize is that overall, if you have a curious personality, if you're an overzealous person to actually help and understand that software runs the world, and of course AI is going to eat software, and we're going to talk about it. Let me start with first question to Harvey as usual. Harvey, why don't you start up today's discussion?
Well, first of all, great seeing you. Nice to see a fellow Texan. And I think when you went to residency is when I started residency, so we're probably about the same.
Oh man, like you didn't even get any gray hair yet? Come on.
It's a damn Hispanic gene, and I'm doing all sorts of longevity hacks. I put myself on metformin and all sorts of stuff to delay my process. And I'll just throw this out there. Since we're talking AI, I have an AI algorithm that I added to my phone. So I look at it and it analyzes my skin, what I'm eating, my sleep, and then it gives me because I'm a doctor, it gives me my own prescription of what I should eat, drink, pills, hydration, and then I gave it access to all my pictures, and then it scans the last 15 years of pictures and tells me when I was aging the most, when I was aging the least, reverse, and then helping me with longevity. So just
Harvey, you gotta talk to me about this offline. I gotta understand how. I thought I had a in-depth setup, but man, that's impressive.
And then I haven't set this guy up, but everything I told you, I set it up with this guy. I just built him, and the skinny is I'm training him to have access to my digital twin. And since I'm on an intranet and nobody else can have access to this, I can ask him hey, how's my HRB and all of that, and then I'll go back and forth. And hey, I'm going to give a talk. Can you help me up on my talk? So anyway, it's something I've been programming. It's on the market. It's called Richie Mini, but then once you have it, it has a dummy terminal. So sorry about the delay. So here's your question, my friend. What gets you the most excited right now about technology in the future? What, when you see it, you hear it, you're there in the medical center, what when you think about all this, it's man, I'm really stoked about what?
So there's a lot of things. and I'll probably bore you with the first one, but honestly, to me, one of the most exciting things is that I feel like technology, or where we are at, is finally making EMRs and health tech, which I've now been doing for almost a quarter of a century, do what we thought it was going to do when I started. I think everybody had this vision of, you'll log in and you'll know where all the information is, and you're not going to have to take notes. It'll record it and transcribe it for you and do all these things, right? I mean, and we told people that or at least we theorized that would happen for ever and ever and ever. And I mean, so many of my mentors have since retired. Some have even passed on, and this hasn't happened. And now as we see it, it's not only happening, but it's happening at a pace that, I mean, I like it, but I mean, wow, I thought that the .com boom was fast. This is even much faster. So that is one thing that excites me. But the other thing that really excites me is how AI will not streamline, but it's maybe streamline, but speed up actually biological sciences research. Hopefully we don't end up engineering something that like destroys us all, but
like the AI virus that came out this week that they designed.
We'll talk about harnesses and loop engineering at some point, but the idea that we may see actual medicine and the human condition improve rapidly based on this technology as well, I think that really, really excites me. I honestly think, we're going to see cures to things coming out more quickly, not just more information thrown at us more quickly.
And since you said that, I got to throw in my public service announcement. Because of what you said, I believe the same thing. And I tell everyone, and I know they're smiling at, and Janeika, they know what I'm about to say, is take care of yourself, because over the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to see so many things being cured. And in our lifetime, if we can take care of our body, there's a good chance that there'll be things that they'll be able to reverse, give you a new XYZ. And as a result, I really think we're going to live longer. So I'm telling everybody out there, make sure you eat well, make sure you sleep. I know that sounds like lame, but no, trust me, because there's going to be things that you may damage that in your lifetime they'll fix, but the damage is so far along that they may not be able to fully fix, whereas some other things they won't. They will. So please take care of yourself.
I wonder what the life expectancy will be when my kids are adults. It's so crazy to think about. And to jump on both of your points, I think all of this innovation that we're seeing highlights what the human brain is capable of thinking up, and I think that's the amazing thing. That's what excites me, is the technology there is now able to match the ideas, we're capable of having. And I think that's incredible.
Agreed. I was just at the ophthalmologist's office yesterday, and he was doing retinal scans and showing me and all this. And I'm like, oh my God, I was like, dude, send me those images, because I am totally going to start playing with them. Just being able to do that. But that fact, like 5 years ago, when Ryan and I, or all of us were in med school, that didn't exist. Like, I remember looking in the back of the eye, and I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see that optic nerve, and I can kind of see the stuff. The image I saw yesterday, I was like, oh my God, it's like nice.
And we say this a lot, that knowledge is power, and then you can choose what you want to do with that knowledge. But just the fact that it's more accessible, I think, is amazing.
Yeah, you're starting from a whole different place, right? Like, you used to have this long kind of preamble to even kind of collect and get the data into one place, and especially to have it start to make some sense. And now a lot of that can be, done before, and then you get to spend more time thinking about what to do with it, how it impacts people. And, I don't know how often you guys do it, but one of the things that AI actually helps me with the most is as a thinking partner. So I like to bounce ideas off of it and just have it give me sometimes it gives me trash. Don't get me wrong. I mean, but sometimes it just the process of literally having somebody to bounce something off of and spit out some ideas, and maybe you discard even, half or more of them, but occasionally you come up with something that I would not have thought of that.
So Ryan, I'm curious, are you chatting or are you speaking or are you typing when you do that?
So I actually right now, I don't want to use product endorsement or anything, but when I need speech to text, I use Whisperflow, just because it seems to be more accurate than some. But I may be starting to do that just in whatever native AI app I use, because they seem to be getting better and faster. I've just started using OpenAI's advanced voice chat, and if you guys haven't used that yet, especially with Codex, Harvey, I don't know how much of a Codex guy you are.
I am. I've been programming. If you go to my insightnow.com, that whole thing is Codex and Claude talking to each other, 5 codes.
Oh my gosh, we're like kindred spirits. I have my Claude and Codex talk to each other pretty frequently. In fact, a lot of times Claude drives Codex for me, and then they pass a baton back and forth so they stay synced.
Yep.
But I'm telling you, the advanced voice function in OpenAI and Codex, to me, it feels like Jarvis from Iron Man. Like you can be on a walk with your iPhone, and I'm sure you could do it on Android too. And you go into your remote, and so it's working on your computer that you have on all the time. You're asking it and telling it what to do, and it's running your computer while you're out on a walk, and you're just having a chat with it like you would with anybody else. And again, you asked what's exciting, right? Like that kind of an interface wasn't even.
I just want to show. So if you go into Codex ChatGPT, if you go into connections, you can control this Mac, control other devices. You can control through SSH. So I actually have an always-on computer just to run Codex, and then it just runs the code in the background.
Are you sharing with everybody today?
I am. Is it not showing?
Yeah, no, we just see you.
We just see you, which is great. But all right, now it's
we love seeing you. It's just
this is where you can literally connect through. So this is now a remote computer that I'm basically coding. And this just stays on, and this is what my Mac is. So I can turn this off and then walk around. And then if you go into connections, you go to control this Mac, control other, and you can even control SSH. And by the way, my whole team actually represents this. Just want to give you two corrections. Number one, so Harness is going to be, so we have the AI Memory Ops, which is a complete software development lifecycle agent ops that we have released. And then we have what we call SDLC ops. And I am personally working on what you suggested, Harness operations. And you're absolutely right. The way the industry is moving is essentially me building my own Harness operations, and of course with local LLMs. And that is the next big thing. And that also is important because my token count is, in the last 3 months has gone 30x. In the next 3 months, I'm looking at 300x usage. So I need to optimize costs as well. But one thing that I do disagree is, unfortunately, that within the FDA operations, and by the way, Ryan, my company's Save Life AI is now has 5, it's actually 4 FDA SAMD devices underneath our belt with high trust cybersecurity. But I'm done with FDA. I'm just now going to go through breakthrough device designations, and I'm also clearly adding what we call an IRB-based approach, which releases some of these high-end innovations and models that I've already developed, but I can't even show it. I'm showing it to investors, and then I have to say disclaimer: I don't know when FDA is going to have a pathway. So I from a software device, yes, but I do agree 100%. that overall the cycle is definitely decreasing from especially in biologics, peptides, and other sort of innovations, because I don't know if you saw the FDA's peptides, they actually approved 5 of them. Mm-hmm. So this is where actually I want to ask you both, Ryan and Ed, Ed is a big proponent of, and so is Harvey. I mean, everyone is a big proponent of health and wellness as compared to medical, which is, unfortunately sick care in this country. What are your thoughts in general with these peptides updates, Ed and Ryan, if you had followed them?
I am just starting to learn about them. So to say that I have enough to comment from what I would feel like would be a medically appropriate standpoint, I don't think I'm quite there yet. But what I do know is I do like to try and be, if not on the bleeding edge, at least on the cutting edge of preventive medicine and wellness. And it's just like you said, right? We have a pretty darn good sick care system, but it's pretty hard to keep people well. I think part of that is human nature. And then I think part of it is, of course, how we've engineered things and, how we've valued different things. So, who doesn't want to see decreased human suffering? I think, I hope everybody wants to see that. At least everybody on this show.
Yeah.
No, I don't know enough about the peptides just yet. I've seen the news articles, and that'll probably be something I actually start looking into relatively soon.
Well, Junaid, let me jump in. Well, yeah, I get my peptides from this lovely clinician. So I'm a big believer, but she could speak to it much more medically than I can. I just say, okay, honey, whatever you want me to take, I'll take. But I want to go back really quick and just say a couple of things, Junaid, and then we'll keep going forward. And there's some great comments. A great friend of ours, Ryan, Dr. Alan Weiss, also had a comment in the stream. But we are on the frontier. We are like, to harken back, to Star Trek, which everyone can relate to, or everyone knows about it, no matter what age you are. They were like out there exploring, not knowing what they're going to run into. And I think we are at that moment. Things happen so quickly, right? And it just reminded me, Ryan, when you were talking about when you were tapped and got into informatics. Yeah, I don't think most of the audience may know because they're all a different generation. But literally before 2010, there were hardly any hospitals using anything. I was fortunate to land at a hospital that was advanced using CPOE. And so that's what helped accelerate my career. It just so happened that we had a bunch of smart docs there and I was at the right time, right place. But you would literally have to train nurses and physicians on how to use a computer before you even go to the EHR. I mean, imagine that. Yeah, and that took a whole lot. So we are definitely on the frontier, which is super, super cool. And the other thing I wanted to say about Ryan, not only all the professional accolades that we've already talked about, but what I was most impressed with is he actually uses AI, like on a personal level, because that's always been one of my themes, is that to be innovative, you have to be innovative. You can't just talk about innovation, you yourself. And it's the same with AI. You're going to talk about AI, try to lead AI at your health system or your clinic or in your company. You better be using AI on a personal level. And that's what really impressed me. I remember Ryan and I were having lunch and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And no wonder that you're so far advanced. So
now I feel like a Luddite compared to Harvey. My goodness.
Well, Harvey's, but here's the counterpoint. At some point, let's not take time to go there now, but I just want to throw it out there. I put it in the comments as well. There was another old movie. I can't even remember what the name of it was, but everyone sort of died at a certain age, like when they turned 30, because just lifestyle reasons, and no one wanted to get old. But at the end of the movie, they find these people who are just enjoying life. They didn't have all the tech or anything. They were just enjoying life. And I think that's an important principle we cannot forget in all of this, because you can become so consumed with tech that you forget to live. And there's nothing wrong, with smoking a cigar and having a glass of wine and just reminiscing with old people around a campfire. We don't ever want to lose that. So anyways, I wanted to throw that in. And there are a couple of comments, Junaid. So whenever I want to make sure.
Yeah, Alan, I saw a question from our friend, Dr. Alan Weiss.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was so do we think that AI is going to help us reduce the cost of healthcare? I'll give you my answer in that. So I think the cost of production of units of healthcare can be decreased. But I think that the cost of healthcare actually has a lot more components than just what the delivery of the healthcare is. So yes, I think it will decrease what it costs to keep people healthy and to produce health-related products. Now, companies are going to do what companies are going to do. So when I invest in the stock market and I'm in a publicly traded company, man, I want them to make money. They better make money because, I want their stock to improve, right? So the motivation, right, is to make money. And so will AI cause those companies to lower their prices, change their incentives? I don't know about that. It should.
I'm going to jump in and say,
I don't know.
Yes, we're going to definitely see a change because there's going to be people. At one point, I owned emergency rooms here in Texas and hospitals, and my competitive advantage was I could move quickly and beat my competition. So sometimes to mess with the hospital systems, I would tell them what I was doing because I knew it would take them 12 months or 24 months to compete with me. And so I was like, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. And my point is this. Companies will see the leverage, will be able to decrease the price, and will create a competitive advantage. Also, the insurance companies are going to jump into this bandwagon. So I see this as outside of the U.S., we're going to see a lot of pressures and flows, decreasing the price of medicine, and it'll flow here.
Dr. Mannering, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I was just going to say so many things will shift. It's so hard to predict where that will leave us when it comes to the net cost. But I don't think it's going to be as a whole more and more expensive. I think so many things will change that we will see the benefits of it elsewhere. But I think that's a fascinating question. And I don't know that we really have like a real answer to that, but it's just something to keep thinking about.
Well,
and what is the sentiment of yours and your other board members that you talk to in terms of cost in AI?
When we talk with our board, especially, and you bring up a good point, and I was a little cynical, but the economic pressures, right? So we've got a lot of folks that are on our board that are on other boards, and in Houston we have lots and lots of very large employers, large companies, right? And when they are dropping the percentages of their gross margin on healthcare that they are, and they are also for-profit, publicly traded companies, that motivation and impetus has to change, right? And yeah, we've been saying it for a long time, right? The percent of healthcare spending to GDP is on the rise, and it's gotten to where it's not sustainable. It's got to change, and the can keeps getting kicked down the road. But I do think finally we've got the ability and technology that may help us actually get there, and we are probably getting closer to that point where it has to. So actually, maybe I'm willing to change my thought process and say that AI will actually help us to change, but it'll be like Harvey mentioned, right? That we will have to move in ways that we haven't thought of before and around some of the traditional structures and things that we've seen.
My opinion is a little nuanced. Let's understand the software industry. We had one copy of Word document and an Excel. Every time a new user comes in, it was a copy of the saved software, and your revenue grows without any, with a very, what we call variable in risk of including your, pricing. But the AI is different. AI, you still have to put energy, GPU costs, infrastructure, all of that. So AI is not exactly software, which people forget. So that's number one. Number two, all technology by definition are deflationary, right? I used to order an ultrasound. By the way, I'm not too old, too young, Ryan and Harvey, and realize that I'm only 5 years off. But anyways, I had to order an ultrasound machine that was $75,000. It took 9 months to go through the whole process of board approval. 3 months later, I bought a $5,000 ultrasound machine. and I put it on the patient right now. So definitionally, all technology is deflationary. It's just the point is that initially it's always inflationary. But however, keeping that in mind, that software and AI is different because software was a copy, but AI is still a service. GPU as a service, anything as well. So that's important. Now, number two, that I just want to create a real example. I apologize to toot my own horn, but oh well. So we just basically created ISDMD, which is not just the scribe, EHR, data integration, etc., clinical. I'm not going to go through all of that, but we just released what we call AI RCM now, which is basically documentation to dollars, converting all revenue cycle. My point is, when I go to the RCM companies, what I'm saying is that by the way, through my voice agents and all the collections and everything, which is agentic AI, what I'm saying to you is now that if you needed 400 people to quote unquote do your, which is by the way, BPOs in Philippines, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, we are looking at decreasing it by 40. And more importantly, and this is something that's dear to me now, is we can bring those back into US as well, which Medicare and Medicaid is going to start to do. So clearly, we're going to have an impact. And it is going to be an asymmetric impact, in my opinion. It is going to be initially a dystopian and inflationary event, and then it's going to be euphoric and event where it's going to be deflationary. And that's one of the reasons that's very different. It's slightly different from software industry, is because you're not just copy pasting. Because I mean, that's the whole game right now. Token efficiency, by the way. So what I'm saying is that's my general term. And I don't know how the policies are going to change. And this is very important. This is where US is going to change. And it has changed. If you look at the history of US, it is a protectionist country, no matter who's on the top at the end of the day. So, and so is Texas. So what I'm saying is that you're going to see that great shift, that even you're going to think that it's going to be deflationary, but we're going to basically remove a lot of jobs that are done outside the country because of AI, but still the jobs here are more expensive. So the benefits of deflationary are not going to be as visible as it should be. So that's my 2 cents. Again, I don't know, maybe wrong, but you guys can continue. Now, going back to the comment that you said, that the residents may feel obliged and may listen, and that's where we come to Ed's biggest thing. And I just want to basically let Ed reframe that question: the behavioral change to adopt AI and the behavioral change due to AI. So Ed, you want to reframe that question better for me, and then we can have a discussion on that, because
Well, and we love all the questions and comments that are coming through. So this is a great opportunity for all of you to interact with amazing clinicians that are online, and especially Dr. Walsh. So yeah, I'm going to throw it to Ryan, because I want him to, I want everyone to learn from him. So yeah, how do we, educate ourselves, adopt, utilize, all that sort of thing? Ryan, what advice do you have for your peers?
First of all, remember to get yourself off mute before you start talking.
Yes.
So my number one piece of advice. Just kidding. So for me, I'm an experiential learner. And Ed, like you said, hey, I love that you use AI. And for me to learn about AI, one of the only ways that I can do that for me personally is to experience it and use it. Just like I mentioned when I started my career, right? Does anyone know about computers? Well, I thought building one was a really cool idea. So I went and learned how to build one. And then, I'm pretty sure everybody remembers the fragility of the old DOS-based Windows PCs. Like, they broke a lot. And I also broke it a lot from my lack of knowledge. Then I had to fix it. All right, so let's move on to AI, right? I think it's just like you said, use it, get to know it. What are learn the limitations and learn them quickly. I think, one of the things that you have to understand if you're going to use LLMs especially is that they can be very confidently wrong. And if something doesn't sound right, you really need to double check it. You need, if you're quoting a number or a source, where did that come from? Show me the source article and the actual sentence you got it out of so that you know that it put it in the right context. Now the volume at which you see that information comes in sometimes is so great that it's hard to read. So now we have our AIs checking our AIs, and you have, rubrics of how they're supposed to check whether or not they're done well and how they're supposed to iterate. So I guess, it's just like I tell my residents, read, learn, use, experience. Again, it's a cliche, but right, see one, do one, teach one. And I think they're cliches for a reason. They work. And so, that's my advice is get out there. Don't be afraid of it. And also try and de-risk your situation too, right? I think there's times that it's really appropriate. If I'm making a life-altering decision with somebody, I'm going to really make sure that my sources and things like that are well checked, well referenced, well stated versus, if we're deciding on what paint color to put on the wall, I can always repaint that. So so try it, but try it in situations where it's appropriate, and give yourself the guardrails to make that trying and experimentation safe.
Yeah, that's good. And listen to Signal and Symptoms every week, Wednesdays.
You know it.
So given that, two things I want to add.
Books.
So there's a skill that I created for my applications, and it's called convergence research. It fans out 16 different angles for research with 5 different LLMs, does web search through Perplexity, Exa, and Tavili, and then brings in all the informations and synthesizes it for me. And then I put it into my, this is actually the intellectual property of the company, which is called Vectorless Index. I don't believe in RAG. RAG actually hallucinates, so we need 100% accuracy. So it creates a citation, which actually we use in our EHR chat. By the way, one of these days, I'm going to show that. And then, of course, the AI RCM part, which is extremely important because you need ICD-10 CMs, ICD-10 PCS. And not only when you write the ICD, you actually get explainability. And that's extremely important. And we're going to come one day, Ryan, bring you back and actually show and tell. And more importantly, you can say what your thoughts are on explainability. Before I get into this, there was another comment, and which is, by the way, Harvey's right there listening. He actually gets jitters now when he cannot use access to Claude Code or Codex. There's literally, you can see him like, Harvey, it's okay. You're going to get access to your AI. Give me 1 second. I'm just saying, and it's me too. I'm just going to be very honest here. I know I'm putting Harvey, my good friend, on spot here, but is there an ADHD? I mean, right now you said something and I want to go in and then type it out on my Codex and Claude Code. Have you seen a behavioral change in yourself, your learning habits, your own? And then second, are you seeing that in your residents as well? That they are very much, even with the hallucination risk and everything, do you see that behavior change of what I call an increased ADHD to AI because of AI?
So interestingly, and I don't know if it's, they've talked about the generational mistrust of AI. I have actually been surprised at how few of my residents use AI to look up outside sources. So, we'll be precepting in clinic or on rounds, and they'll come back and have a question, or they'll be talking about a case or a patient and say, hey, I don't know where to go with this. And, the first thing I said, did you look it up? What do the sources say? And, whether, I don't care if they use regular UpToDate or, whatever it is. So now I think most of us are probably experienced or used Open Evidence or even UpToDate's LLM product. I just got on to OpenAI's new GPT for ChatGPT for clinicians. And by the way, if you haven't tried that yet, you need to try that. The point being, I've actually seen a bit of hesitancy, more than I expected. Now, interestingly, they will use the summaries a lot inside of our EHR Epic. So we have AI summaries of things. They don't check those enough. So when they see it right in their EHR, they trust it implicitly for some reason. And I've actually seen that stuff hallucinate before. But going to the outside sources, they seem to be more skeptical. And I actually would love to, I'm going to actually consider doing a poll and maybe like some observational research on their attitudes towards that.
Yeah.
That's
Ryan, that's a
surprising.
good, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking that's surprising. And I wonder if it's because they don't feel like they have invested the time to use it safely, effectively, and it's almost overwhelming because a lot of what we've talked about, you have to use the tech yourself, you have to experience it, you have to know its pitfalls, its strengths. And if you don't have that experience, you haven't invested the time into it, it can be intimidating. And so I'm wondering if that's the limitation, but that surprised me. I would expect them to use it more regularly.
Yeah,
In some cases they do, and in some cases they've really seemed to eschew it.
Yeah, I think it's worthy of an entire new episode. And Ryan, maybe it would be fun to have Brian bring some of the other residents. Because we're seeing it in broader society. There has been a pushback, and I haven't seen the videos, so I have to say that up front. I just read articles about the videos, but there are some speeches right at the, when people graduate, whatever that's called, you bring in the superstar and not the valedictorian, but the person, commencement speech. And they're talking about AI, the great future in AI, and there's boos from the college students because I think there's a pushback because people have a fear, and it's in medicine and everywhere, that it's going to take the place of authentic relationships. And so there's this careful balance. And so, so there's a pushback. I think that pushback is going to continue, but I think we'll see a correction as people gain more confidence, right? Because there's that fear of the machine taking over and the hallucinations, all that kind of stuff. So, and then there's also a fear that I'm going to lose part of my soul. Like if I jump all into AI and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to lose part of my soul. It's like, I don't want that. And I'd rather give up a long life. And I made a little comment about that earlier in the stream. I would give up a 150-year lifespan that's made up of so much tech for 100 years of just love. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And I was in a physician group recently, and the comments about using AI to look up clinical scenarios and help with patient care. One of the things they commented on was that they were afraid of losing their skills, like their clinical skills.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something to consider too. But I'm with you, Ed. I think there has to be a balance. And I think that's why it's so divisionary. People are either just on one side or the other. And the reason I'm here is I think there needs to be a bridge. And I think we have to learn the tech is not going anywhere. We have to learn to embrace it in a way that serves us, use it as a tool, not let it take over our lives or replace our relationships. But I think if people kind of reach that middle ground, they're not going to be as fearful of it anymore.
Well, and Ed, how long did we see that as EMRs were becoming, the norm, right? Like,
Totally.
Oh, these things, it's going to ruin medicine. It's, all these, terrible things are going to happen. And well, I mean,
yeah, you're right.
Kind of did, but
there's a little dip and then it goes past. And I think we're kind of, I don't think we're down at the bottom of that dip. I think it's going to go down a little further. And then, you're right, Ryan. Yeah, we got all sorts of pushback, right? We're going to kill people, all that kind of stuff. And we didn't. In fact, we saved a lot of lives, and that's what this is going to do. But this whole balance thing is just important. And Junaid, not to put pressure back on you, but there's a lot of comments and stuff.
I'm sorry. I have not been able to. Actually, I did address this. I love it that you bring it up, and that's why I showed the RCM denials and claims and everything. If I'm missing anyone, it's the same question. Love it. What I'm actually seeing here is that, now let me switch gears, and this is very important. So I don't know if everyone is actually following a clinical trial of a mom that killed her 3 kids. And then the psychiatrist was on the stand, and the psychiatrist says that the lawyer asked the question that you're saying deteriorating, and you didn't do anything, which she did. But anyways, what I'm saying is that the answer of the psychiatrist was very interesting. He said, in my EMR, this is not AI, nothing, no AI scribe. There are only 3 options: improving, no change, and deteriorating. And she was slightly deteriorating, so I had to just click the deteriorating part, and therefore, this is it. And this is where the issue with the tool, and maybe actually, honestly, that's where the confusion comes in. Should she have used a clinical scribe to detail it out or not? And so, long story short, Ryan, what I'm getting to it is the medical legal aspect of AI and how that is going to play out. You clearly suggested that even summaries in AI that are at a very massive, company, $6 billion, is not just accurate. How are you looking through your lens for medical legal implications of these technologies?
So I think it is, again, similar to a lot of rapidly diffusing technology that we've seen in the past. And the way I mean that is that governance, law, and even sometimes how we think about it is sometimes outpaced by the advancement of the technology. And I feel like we are in that area now. So what does that mean, I think, at our organization? So as we onboard new AI, we are starting to run it through, a reasonably, I don't know if you guys have heard of the CHAI framework. It's a consortium I think it's Consortium on Healthcare AI is actually what the acronym is. I might be messing up the C, but where I'm going with that is they have kind of a framework and rubric on, the risk and how autonomous things are. And then based on that rubric, how much you kind of have to double check and how thorough you are with your evaluation. So I think it was Vishal who mentioned, right? Hey, it's a lot different when you're using something, for example, in the rev cycle where, you could mess up a patient account, but the idea that you're going to hurt somebody physically or permanently is pretty unlikely, right? Whereas, you've got something like real-time sepsis where, if you miss that, a patient can get hurt pretty quickly. And so the point being, you have to look at what's at stake, how quickly things are interacting, where the human is in the loop, all of those sorts of things. So we have a clinical AI governance council that helps us onboard things. And then we're big into the pilot work, just like anything else. So we typically will onboard something with a few fairly tech savvy clinicians that will give it a good deep dive and come back and report on, hey, I saw this report X incorrectly. And, I think you guys have probably seen this, and we saw it with regular EMRs. I don't know if AI is speeding it up or not, but, garbage in, garbage out, right? It's an age-old story in technology in general. In AI, though, like if it's summarizing my note and my note was wrong, it doesn't say, hey, dude, your note was wrong, at least not yet. Maybe someday it will get there. But it just says what I said in my note because we only told it to summarize it. We didn't say to correct it. And so it can perpetuate those things and do so believably. And we have to be careful. So you have to have governance. You have to base the governance on the amount of risk. Medical legally, I don't know that it's any different than, when we started to get into EMRs, except I do think it is a bit harder to kind of show that reasoning chain. So I think it'll be interesting, when they start to get into discovery, like, do you have to go back and show how the LLM reasoned, what it told you? I think that might be a thing. So I'll be interested to see how some of that plays out. But unfortunately, that will take bad things happening and people getting sued, which is not awesome. Sorry, that was a lot.
Ed, what are your thoughts about this when you're sitting with a board member or basically presenting to multiple boards as you do? What you're looking at is two options. One is, of course, when we see a device, a physical device, a stent that broke off, and then or even Foley catheters. I mean, we see this all the crap. I mean, there's clearly a quote-unquote manufacturer issue versus clinician issue, and we can clearly sue the manufacturer. I don't know if we can sue Epic, but I'm pretty sure we can't. And that's what I'm trying to talk about, like as a software. And one of the reasons I did go through the software part is essentially saying that, you know what, at this point in time, you are actually liable or not. And that's the distinction I want to ask Ed, and that's where the governance comes in. And where's the governance responsibility? Because, and by the way, there's a whole AI governance part coming through Save Life AI, which will be available. Ryan, you should look into it. Every freaking note, 100, this was the transcribe part, this was the summary part, so you can review it, de-identify it, and score it. So therefore, you can actually, and use for any other, of course, you can use with our technology, but you can use for any AI, including visions and everything. But long story short, AI governance, I completely agree. I love it. I believe in it. I'm building a platform just so that it becomes easier for you to evaluate. But having said that, Ed, there was a device, which is very interesting. I want to give my software as a medical device, which is, reminder, because software, there was no pathway. So therefore, FDA does software as a medical device. Anyways, Ed, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so maybe that's another guest we should have at some point, a practical, someone from a practical point of view. And I think that's what we look at from the board perspective. And that's a question I get from boards when I present to them is, the CHAI framework is a good one that Ryan mentioned. Again, we're not promoting any specific framework. It is a standard out there. I put a link in there. When you said CHAI though, Ryan, it made me long for like CHAI.
Yeah, I'm hankering for some tea soon.
Yeah. And I was trying to post the image, but you can't post the image in the stream. So I think there's a reasonable test that we typically look for, and are we taking a reasonable approach to leveraging any sort of technology, whether it's AI, and it doesn't even have to be tech, anything. Are we using a reasonable approach that the majority of other organizations like us also adopt? And that's sort of considered sort of the gold standard in terms of like defensibility, is like, based on what we all know today, the body of knowledge today, is what we're doing, is this a reasonable approach? And I think that's the sort of the litmus test that we look at. There's nothing that's foolproof. And if we look for foolproof solutions, and I've said this before, I think governance kills more people than sepsis. Because we've gotten so focused on governance. I'm not just talking about AI, but in general.
Can somebody get that as a quote? That is like, Ed, I'm
yeah.
Governance has killed more people than sepsis. I am saving that.
I put it out on a video clip, which don't get as many views just because of the algorithms and LinkedIn. And I almost came out, and I am going to at some point come out and say it. But, sepsis is supposed to be the leading cause of death inside of a hospital, preventative type death. But I think actually it's governance. And because we've kept life-saving technologies out of the hospitals, out of the ORs for a couple of years at a time, because we're so concerned, right? And it's good to have concern. We have to have concerns. We have to take a reasonable approach. But I think sometimes we get so caught up in our own internal politics of our organizations, we take such an unreasonable approach because of fear. But in that fear, we're not allowing all the technologies and the great clinician minds that you all represent to fully, be exploited in a good way. So, anyways, that's how I look at it, Janine.
No, I love it that the discussion came through, and I love your quote. But here's the problem. I'm an ICU physician, right? And the problem is that somebody comes in and tells me that this is the AI you're going to use. And there's a fascinating sensitivity and specificity that was reported to FDA, my own. But then did I actually get that in real life? So this whole platform I have to build, and it's because I want to make my patients safe, right? On real life patients on a regular basis, the board, the director of radiology, the director of neurology will get sensitivity, specificity to positive. By the way, Harvey, this is for you, by the way. And this is, you can literally add any model through basically a workplace, that how you're going to basically add that model. And then on live patients, because you have HIPAA compliance, it will give you, first of all, de-identified if you can, because you can accept it. And then it was going to give you essentially a QA. And QA is very important too, because let's say the problem is that the issue with the AI, another issue that I want to basically in terms of governance, and I want to basically, and you're right, first of all, you're absolutely right. The other issue is that let's say I put in a breast cancer thing, and then the radiologist disagreed, but the AI sent a reading that it's positive, and then 3 years down the line, it does come back positive. Who's going to get sued? So the board says, you know what, I don't care, let's just not put it in. But the benefit of this sort of governance part in the terms that you're talking about and actually operationalizing it for the board, for everyone, is the idea behind it is the same way that first of all, you know in real life how that is performing, but also more importantly, you do an automated QA that the director is notified, oh, radiologist didn't read it, but you know it is coming up, or you know Ryan says that I did not dictate this note, what the hell happened, or the note went to another patient. All of these things need to be governed, because you know I build software for a living now, and I understand that. And being a clinician and a builder, you're so right that there are life-saving issues that are not being propagated. But as you always said, Ed, I think everyone needs a sandbox in their hospitals. Essentially a sandbox with this kind of governance, sitting on it, using it for 3 months, and then actually doing a proper buying decision. That's why I built it. That's why I made sure that everyone is actually looking into it. But anyways, Ryan, your final thoughts on governance as a CMIO, how you're going to implement governance in your institution.
So I talked about it a little bit. You know, we have an overarching AI governance council that will cover all of our AI. And, you know, we use it in multiple areas, right? Patient outreach and interactions, revenue cycle, marketing, all those sorts of things. And then we, of course, have kind of sub parts of that, right? Our clinical AI governance group. So how do we do that? So as we, like I said, as we onboard it, pilot, test, and iterate. So it's in its infancy or its nascent stage, but I think we're spinning it up actually pretty rapidly. And because, like Ed said, right, you know, governance kills more people than sepsis. I think.
Love it.
No, and it's man, I'm gonna use the heck out of that, Ed. I might quote you though. I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
You know, Ed Marks said,
protect yourself. Do not. Yeah.
But where I was going with that, in all seriousness, is I think we as an organization have actually gotten to the point where we say, yeah, there is some risk to not using some of these things that can really help us. How do we bring this out in a way which is rapid enough so that we are doing the right thing, but with enough guardrails to make sure that we are, as Ed said, I'm going to do another quote that was, I think, also quite wise, which is, what is reasonable and proper to do? You know, so did we think about it hard enough and in a reasonable enough fashion that we did our due diligence? And would somebody that's reasonable look at it and say, yeah, these guys checked it out, and maybe you did have a bad outcome, but it wasn't because they were careless or foolish. It was because sometimes you have bad outcomes. And so I think it's very important that we don't, I'll toss out another cliche, throw out the baby with the bathwater. Right. We need to test the bathwater.
With that, do not throw out the baby with the bathwater. We're going to conclude today's session. We're going to bring Dr. Walsh back with hopefully some of his residents and fellows. Any other opportunity. I think we need to dedicate 2 different episodes, one specifically for AI governance, both in the vision, VLM, and LLM models, and how we should have a governance on them. And you should bring your governance team, and we can brainstorm so all other hospitals learn from your innovation, because that's, as I said, is going to probably save more lives than sepsis. Because that is important to bring this into it. And then the second session, I believe, is going to be all about healthcare education, bringing in the new blood and how they think, how they see the future in this regard. Again,
I'll tell you, so much. First of all, thanks for having me. This has been great. Junaid, I want us to bring on some partners of mine, Chaitanya Vempati and Sanya Chandrasakar. They are our analytics gurus at Memorial Hermann, and they help us do some of the actual testing and analytics behind it. So I saw the relatively sophisticated setup that you have. I bet you and Chaitanya would absolutely hit it off. And you want to see the people that really know this, those are the guys. Well, I should say lady and guy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again. See you next week.
Thank you. See y'all.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Ryan.